So at the Federal Reserve, myself and our Director of Research at our bank, we began to look at the literature in early childhood in terms of the importance of the early years on kids as they go to school and go into their adult lives. And we became convinced, as we were reviewing this literature, that there is a strong economic case to be made. And that is that if we invest in young kids, that this is a sound form of economic development. In the United States, sometimes we get confused about economic development in our policy. That is, we'll have local governments attempting to even build sports stadiums to help sports teams build their stadiums, and they call this economic development. And our Rolik, who is my co-author on all of this research, he for a long time pointed out that building a sports stadium is not a form of economic development. We're not going to see an increase in income overall in our community. It has no long-run prospects on economic growth, and essentially we've won that debate. Human capital is economic development. Sports stadiums is something else.
Yes, exactly.
So what we did is we reviewed first the brain research, which you are familiar with, and then we looked at 4 long-term economic studies that were all based here in the United States. But the lessons learned from these studies can be applicable to throughout the world, because it's looking at the impact of children who are in disadvantaged environments of having a high-quality preschool program or a high-quality child care program or a home visiting program that reaches out to families that are in more disadvantaged situations. What economists were then able to do is to look at the impact of these studies on the children and begin to put monetary values to those benefits. So you have a preschool program, you have kids coming in from lower income families, they're having this experience. So what are some of the benefits that we have? We'll do a little interaction here, because you know the answers. Maybe not all of them, but I'll give you those. So what type of benefits could we put monetary values to?
Reduce dropout from school.
So we reduce the dropout rate in school. As we have more students graduating from, let's say, our high schools, they go on, they earn more money in the workforce because they have a high school degree. Maybe they go on and get even some more training and even earn more income. The return on an additional year of education is quite high. So that is a benefit.
I was going to say less crime and prison.
So yes. So one of the benefits that was found over time, because of these 4 studies, they were able to track the children over a long period of time. And I'll back up and say that, yes, crime is definitely one of the large benefits. And of these studies, they use a randomized trial. That is, children were randomly selected to be in the program group, to receive the preschool program, or to be in a control group. And because there was this randomized selection, we can be more confident that the differences between the kids who went to preschool and the comparison group have to do with the intervention, with the preschool program. So they use this high-quality research design. And so I'm going to highlight in just a moment the Peri-Preschool project, which is conducted in Michigan, and it has a 40-year follow-up. That is, at age 40, they're able to interview the members of the control group and the participants and see, well, what differences were there. So far we have dropout rates were reduced, high school graduation rates were higher, crime was reduced, all crime rates from misdemeanors all the way up to felonies, more serious crimes were reduced as well.
So reduced educational supports?
Reduced educational supports. So you need less special education, less remedial education.
And I think gender imbalances, you can reduce gender stereotypes and gender imbalances.
So interesting difference, looking at gender imbalances, and that those might be, basically a phrase that we often talk about in the United States is just the gap, or the achievement gap, and looking at that achievement gap also in terms of income, socioeconomic backgrounds, also ethnicity, whatever those differences are, that through early education can begin to close those. A couple more?
Social welfare?
Yep, social welfare is one of those benefits. In our calculations, we say, well, the taxpayer wins on that one. They're paying less in social welfare. On a net benefit, it's really just a transfer. Go ahead.
Well, what about employer workforce support and enabling parents to work because they have childcare and some reduction of poverty and increased economic security?
Certainly, that if your child care system is well run, it's high quality, allows parents to move into the workforce, and the parent allows parents to work, and that's extra income for those parents. And if the arrangements, if your child care system is run well, that means that their parents are less likely to be absent from work because their child care arrangements are consistent. And that is one of the findings from these studies I'll share with you. So what you'll notice in our discussion, there's a variety of short-term benefits, let's say to the school system, immediate benefits, having parents being able to go to work. Some also other immediate benefits in order to talk about early childhood as economic development is the businesses themselves, the child care businesses. If you have businesses that are providing child care, that are receiving income, that is a source of employment. Those businesses are also purchasing goods and services from the community in order to provide that child care. And so as you talk to business leaders and policymakers in your community, you can point out that child care itself is an industry, and the workers in this industry provide, in this near term, right now, economic growth and development. Then we go into the school system. We have more near-term benefits. So we see that kids are doing better in school, need less remedial education, less grade retention. If you can keep kids from repeating a grade, that's a cost savings as well. You get older and you find that, well, now their kids are not committing juvenile crimes. As they become adults, they're not committing as many adult crimes. And then also when they get into the workforce, they're earning more money because they're more productive. That also means they do what?
Pay taxes.
They pay more in taxes. So your tax revenue is higher. So I'll show a slide here. So this is a slide, a chart that shows the benefits of the Perry Preschool Project. This is the one that had the 40-year follow-up. And you first see the cost of the program. So in US dollars, it was $11,000 per year in today's dollars. On average, the children attended for about a year and a half. And we see savings through what we call K through 12. It means our education system, our primary and secondary schools, and that's primarily due to reductions in special education. Then we have higher participant earnings. Most of that is a private benefit going to the participants in the program, but some comes back to the public in the form of higher tax revenue, as we talked about. And then the reductions to the use of the criminal justice system. So for the Perry Project, there was strong savings because they reduced the crime, and that meant that they reduced incarceration rates, so less jail time, less time in courts, and also less need for police protection. They also had a calculation for the cost to the victims of crime themselves, so reducing crime, so those that were victims of crime are no longer victims, and so what those benefits are. So as economists, what we do, and I want you to think about this in your own advocacy for your own program, is that you can look at these type of benefits, and if you have a well-run study like these, using a randomized trial, or let's say a very high-quality quasi-experimental research design, you can assign these benefits, and then you can evaluate, well, how large are the benefits relative to the cost? We come up with a ratio. Now, just looking at these bars, the bar coming to the left is a lot shorter than all the bars going to the right, so our ratio is probably going to be above 1. If your ratio is above 1, that means you're getting your money back. Okay, so you're getting your money back here. So here's the ratio of the Perry Preschool Project is very high, 16 to 1. And I'm going to offer just one technical note here, and that is that all those benefits in that 16, they're also discounted at a discount rate because future benefits are less valuable than benefits that are happening in the near term. So a benefit that's happening 40 years out in terms of higher income for that child, we've really discounted that benefit over time. So we have a present value, we call here, this is our ratio of present value to present value costs. So 16 to 1, very high rate of return. Now in the literature you will also hear another expression. So this is our benefit cost ratio. You'll also hear another expression, and that is the rate of return, the interest rate. What is that annual rate of return? These are actually two different measures, based on the same data, but two different measures. And I talk about this a little bit here so that you just recognize that there are these two different measures out there. The rate of return you can think about as your savings account. What does your savings account pay year after year? Your CD? Probably not too much. Not a whole lot. As you shop on the internet, maybe you can get to 1% these days. So what that annual rate of return, and so we calculated what that annual rate of return is. It's 18% annually. So you think about your savings account, you have 1%. This is a lot higher than percent. This is also adjusted for inflation. So it's what we call an inflation-adjusted return. Most of the benefit is accruing to the non-participants.